Welcome back, Curry Crew. So today we're going to be making some delicious macarons, and as you can see we have two different colors here, which means we're going to be making two different flavors. However, as you can see, one of these does not look like the other. What that means is something wrong happened here which didn't happen with these two. So what we're also going to be covering in today's video is some of the common mistakes that can happen when making macarons and how we can avoid them. However, both of these macaron flavors are still going to taste delicious, and you can still follow this recipe even for the one that doesn't look right, because you can always correct the mistakes that you make and end up with a delicious final product. So without any further ado, let's jump into our video. So guys, in today's video, we're going to be showing you how to make macarons, and we're actually also going to be showing you what to do and what not to do. So as you can see here, I have two different versions of macarons, and I have one that looks, perfectly fine and, delicious. And I have one that, while it is still delicious, it is basically saggy, but didn't puff up enough. There's cracks all over the top of the macaron. So what happened here, right? That's the question. So the one situation that could have happened is that when we were making our macaron base, we did not beat our eggs till stiff peaks. If you beat your eggs till stiff peaks, you'll see that your macarons should puff up nicely. You should see a little bit of a rise on the macaron. So as you can see here, it clearly proves that this one we puffed up perfectly fine by whipping our eggs enough, and then this one we didn't whip our eggs enough, and that's why there's no rise, there's no puffiness in the cookie itself. The other situation that could have also happened is when we were combining our egg whites with our flour, we didn't mix it properly, and because of that, that's how you can get these little cracks on top. So while this macaron that we have is still gonna taste delicious for us, it's not gonna be perfect like the ones that you see on the left, because these ones, we did it right. We did the steps right. We whipped the eggs till stiff peaks. We mixed everything in properly, and that's why you get a perfectly round macaron, no cracks on top. It puffed up nice, and that's what you're looking for. So we're still going to show you how to make both of these flavors today. However, we're also going to be covering a little bit about the do's and don'ts of what you're looking for. So today we're going to be making two flavors of macarons. So we're going to make a rose cardamom and a saffron pistachio. And approximately we're going to make about 12 to 15 of each flavor. So to start, in two separate mixing bowls, we have 120 grams of powdered sugar, half a cup of almond flour, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. These proportions will make about 12 to 15 macarons, double it for this recipe since we're making two flavors. We will then take our flour, sugar, and salt mix, and we're going to give it a quick blend in a food processor. This is going to ensure that we don't have any clumps in our final mixture. We want our dry ingredients to be as fine as possible so that we can avoid any granules that can ruin our final dish. Even if you have ultra fine almond flour and powdered sugar, it is still recommended that you blend it up in a food processor first. Once you are done blending up, you can return your dry ingredients to their bowl. However, we're going to sift it through a sieve to remove any possible clumps or big particles. This will ensure that we have a fine and smooth base to start out our macarons. Once you are done sifting the dry ingredients, set the bowl aside and repeat the entire process with the second batch of dry ingredients. Once both batches are done, we can get rid of the food processor since we no longer need it for this recipe. Next, we're going to take our next two bowls in which we have our egg whites. So in each bowl we have egg whites from approximately 1.5 eggs, or about 56 grams worth of egg whites. Next, into the bowls we're going to add in 1/4 teaspoon of salt. This will help to stabilize our egg whites as we start whipping them so they do not stay all runny. Now we will start whisking our eggs. You can use a regular whisk if you want a workout, or you can use a hand mixer if you don't want to keep whisking for over 20 minutes. This is also where our first error of our do's and don'ts can occur. If you don't whisk your eggs enough, you will end up with a macaron that does not rise and ends up cracking on top. So we will first whisk the eggs to soft peaks, which should look like this. And then once we reach soft peaks, we will start adding in our sugar. We will add in 1/8 cup of sugar a little bit at a time until fully incorporated. You can now also add in 1/4 teaspoon of rose water and a few drops of pink food coloring for our rose and cardamom macarons. Continue whisking until it is incorporated and until we reach stiff peaks, which should look like this. Keep going until you have what looks like stiff peaks. Not whipping your eggs enough will result in a flat and cracked macaron. Once you reach stiff peaks, stop. You don't want to over whip your eggs. Once that is done, set the bowl aside and start with the second batch. Like before, we are going to whisk until soft peaks, and then we're going to add in our sugar. After that is mixed, into this, we're going to add in 1/4 teaspoon of saffron water. So we basically just soaked a pinch of saffron in a few tablespoons of water. Then we're also going to add in 2 to 3 drops of yellow food coloring, and this will be for our Saffron Pistachio macarons. Then continue whisking until it is fully incorporated and you reach stiff peaks. This is where I messed up my macarons. So like I mentioned before, you want to make sure that you whisk until stiff peaks and don't stop until you reach that stage. Once both egg whites are done, we can move on to the next step, during which we will begin mixing our egg whites with our dry ingredients from earlier. We will pour our flour mixture into our egg mixture 1/3 at a time. So add 1/3 of your flour mix, then mix it in until incorporated, and then continue adding in more. Just mix until incorporated and don't over mix. You don't want to knock out too much air out of the mixture. Once you have added in all of the flour and sugar mix, give it all one final mix, and you will know that your batter is ready when it flows off the spatula smoothly and you can draw the number 8 in the batter. If you want to think about how it might look, it should look a little bit like wet sand. We will then repeat this step with our other flavor as well. Macarons take a long time to master, so don't be disheartened if you mess up the first time that you make them and they don't look like the ones from the store. Even I messed up one of the flavors, so keep practicing and over time you will become an expert as well. Once both batters are properly mixed, we will transfer them into piping bags, and then we will take a baking sheet lined with parchment paper and we will start piping our cookies onto the sheet. Try to pipe out circles that are similar in size, as this will be the top and bottom of each macaron. Once you have piped out all of your filling onto the sheet, we're going to then take the sheet and we're going to bang it on a towel on the counter. This will help to knock out any excess air that is in the cookies and will help to flatten them and even out our circles. This is an important step because this will help make sure that your macarons don't have any cracks on them and that they rise properly. Once again, learn from my mistake, make sure that you do this step properly, and once one flavor is done, repeat all of the steps with the other flavor, and once again, make sure to properly smack the macarons on the counter to remove any excess air bubbles that may be trapped inside. Next, let the baking sheets rest on the counter for about 45 minutes. This will help your macarons dry up a little bit on the outside and form somewhat of a skin on the surface of the cookies. This is going to help with baking later on. After about 45 minutes, we will bake the cookies in the oven at about 300 degrees Fahrenheit or 150 degrees Celsius for about 15 to 17 minutes or until the macarons rise. Once they rise, take the macarons out of the oven and allow them to cool. In the meantime, we will start making our fillings. So we're going to be making a buttercream filling. So into each bowl, add in 1 stick of room temperature unsalted butter. Next, take a hand mixer and whisk the butter until smooth. Then into this, we're going to sift in 1 cup of powdered sugar. Again, we are sifting it in because we don't want any clumps or particles. We want a smooth buttercream. Give it all a nice mix, and then you can mix it using the hand blender. And then to this, we're going to add in 1.5 tablespoons of heavy cream, but we're going to add in half a tablespoon at a time. Once that is all mixed, we're going to add in half a teaspoon of our saffron water and give it a nice mix. Then we're pretty much done with our saffron buttercream. And for our rose macarons, we're going to repeat these steps, but instead of saffron water, we're going to add in rose water, and we will use pink food coloring instead of yellow. In the saffron buttercream, we will then add in a handful of crushed pistachios, and in the rose buttercream, we're going to add in a handful of crushed cardamom seeds. Then we will place the buttercream into piping bags, and we will fill all of our macarons. So basically what we will do is we will take 2 of our cookies, and we're gonna add the cream onto one cookie just until it almost reaches the edge of that cookie. Then we're gonna top it with the other cookie, and here I am filling the rose cardamom macarons, and here we have our final macarons. Once again, we learned what to do and what not to do when making macarons, and hopefully you can create 2 successful macarons and build off my mistakes. But forget all of that now. How does it taste? So guys, here is our final dish. Now, as we discussed earlier, there were some mistakes that you can fix when you're making this for yourself so that you can turn out with the perfect macarons that are, nice and puffed up, that are, not cracked on top, and the ones that didn't depress down. So we have 2 different flavors. They're still gonna taste amazing. It's just that the looks, if you want them to get perfect, you gotta follow some of the advice that we mentioned earlier in the video. However, I'm gonna dig in right now. So I'm gonna start with the yellow one, which is our Saffron Pistachio. Guys, that flavor is out of this world. It tastes amazing. So, as you can see, even if it doesn't look right, it can still taste absolutely amazing. So do not get disheartened if your macarons don't turn out perfect on the first try. It takes years of practice for chefs to perfect macarons, and as you can see, even I wasn't able to do it on my first try. So you guys need to just keep working on it, keep practicing, and you'll get better eventually. Now let's move on to the second one that we have. Guys, this one is just as delicious. This one is the rose cardamom. It's packed full of amazing flavors. So you guys need to try both of these recipes out for yourself. Let us know how they turn out for you. I would love to see some pictures of your macarons as well. So let us know how it turns out. Keep on cooking, and make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and punch that notification bell.